last spring I dug some pits to try to collect sediment that runs off the ditch coming from the road beside our property. This is just kind of a only runs when it's raining stream that leads off from the outflow of that ditch. The last time these were emptied was in October. The last time I was home before now that there wasn't snow on the ground, and it's early April now. And there's many benefits to removing sediment from streams, and so it's a generally good idea. And this ditch then eventually goes into one of the streams on our property. So I'm trying to remove sediment from the streams. It can clog up the gills of fish and other benthic macroinvertebrates that are key to the health of streams, as well as just kind of being a general nuisance. Another reason to remove sediment is to try to reduce the sedimentation in the stream below. This stream, which is about 100 feet below the input of that ditch, when I was younger, every couple years we'd have to dig it out to keep it from flooding onto the fields around. We haven't so much recently. I'm not entirely sure why. It might be because we haven't noticed it as much with these trees growing up, but I think it also might be just slightly different changes. But that would always be a ton of work to dig out this sediment and place it in the little swampy areas around it. And I realize digging out streams isn't the best management practices for streams, but we would try to do some other things that would hopefully mitigate for that, because we really were trying to keep this stream in what is 20-foot wide corridor, which is still pretty good for a stream of this size. Like the sediment, instead of just kind of spreading it evenly, we were trying to mound it up, such as this mound right here, and that would hopefully promote a diversity in habitats with having a little bit of drier area in the wetter area around it. This pool, a short bit downstream and much larger, is also filled with sediment, as is the upper pools. I'll dig this out. It's really goopy. And just deposit it over the side. This sediment wouldn't be all that good for anything for multiple reasons. One, it's just like really silty, clayey stuff, which is not very desirable for much because it's like super poor draining. They're not obviously present here. It is up by the upper pools. There's an invasive species which I think is called goutweed. It has some other names as well. And that might be just the colloquial name for it. But we don't want to spread that beyond this area, and we have it in multiple places throughout our land, but we still want to limit its spread as much as possible because it kind of takes over and kills off other stuff on the ground. Seems to only really like part shade, or I don't know, seems to like it be very prevalent. Even kind of going after just like regular grasses. So we don't want to move this sediment far because it could contain parts of that. This gives you an idea of what this big pool is settling out, which is the really silty, clayey stuff. It should be mentioned that I chose this spot because I could dig a really big pool. The upper ones were what I dug first. This one I actually dug in August of last year. And I specifically chose this spot to dig a pool because it's really the only place that I can dig a big enough pool. And the bigger the pool means that the slower the water velocity is in it. So this finer sediment has the ability to settle out. And this one generally stays wet all the time just because there's the stream flowing right beside it. I think the water table is just higher here. It doesn't dry out like the upper ones do in slightly drier times, and it's not raining. Those often maintain some water, but this one continues flowing water, just there's higher water level here. And in these upper ones, after I dig them out, which I'll do right after this, I need to repair the rock work I've put in place to try to remove any erosion that happens as the stuff goes from one pool to the next. One of the other issues that I've noticed in maintaining these, which I did frequently over the summer, is the leaves that build up, leaves and other crud that build up in these. This one looks like it's in particular need of re-rocking it to try to maintain these barriers between them. Because if I don't have the rocks there, it'll just erode and have one big long sediment train. Yeah, this even isn't working so well. I definitely need to improve that so I can continue to maintain the separate pools, which I think one bigger pool would be good, but because this is on a relatively steep slope, I don't want to dig that big of a pool and have most of the area end up not being part of it. That's the reason I put the bigger pool downstream, was to try to catch everything there. The weather is currently periods of light rain interspersed with periods of moderate rain, one of which just passed through here, so this water is still coming down as runoff from that. And even though this is discharging sediment into the stream, from even after these drainage, these like the settling ponds, it's better than the water flowing into the top of these structures. It's a lot less concentrated of sediment, and so total sediment is less. So it shows that the drainage ponds are working than the inputs to the drainage pond system, which, though it's not entirely clear, I'm pretty sure has darker sediment, more concentrated sediment coming into it. I am not taking a sample, so it might be that I'm just projecting what I want to see. Another thing we're trying to do to prevent sediment entering this stream is 3 years ago when we built the garage here, we dug out a pretty big drainage ditch that ended up having a lot of bare clay soil, and even now 3 years later after we dug this, it's still bare clay for the most part because not much is willing to grow on that steep slope of very, very dense clayey soil. And so what we have is we have some check dams which hold back water and trap the sediment in the water during rainstorms. And even without rainstorms, they are still holding back water. And because we actually had a fairly decent amount of sediment get trapped in these, we do have to clear these out every so often. And because it's cold, it was cold this morning, below freezing overnight, I had to move the ice, but it's just a little bit, pull that out, and then in another month or so check again. It's not like we have a ton building up, but it's something we have to do every so often. Another thing I find interesting is that when we dug this ditch, we ended up cutting a lot of roots, and both this ditch and another nearby ditch, a lot of little trees are coming up from like partway through the ditch. These are what we call poplars. I think officially they have a different name, and poplars are technically something else, but in the Vermont, this is what is considered a poplar. And I think these are coming up from the roots, and actually in another nearby ditch, dug a year or two before this one, there's actually some little apple sprouts coming up from a nearby old apple tree.